All right, we got traveler number 7 that's joining the pilgrimage. And another thing about their journey and their traveling was the pilgrimage, they were going to the church. See, church back then wasn't like church today. They had one cathedral or one temple, and nobody had cars. So when they went to church, it would be for like high holy days and special holidays and feast days, Pentecost, Passover. So they'd all travel in groups to the temple. And so we got traveler number 7. So this is Arbie Rice, my father-in-law. What'd you retire at, Arbie? What'd you do your life?
Construction.
Construction. You worked in the mines for a while?
I operated equipment in strip mines.
Yeah. And your dad, you said your dad had a little watch shop, right?
My granddad did.
Your granddad here in Wayne?
Yeah.
And you lost your mother at a young age, right?
I did.
And then your daddy raised you all?
Right.
Okay. All right, so you ready to share your story with us?
Yeah.
All right.
It's a true story. I've sort of...
Just take your time. Lord help you.
I've made the way I'm sort of tying this together in my life, I've made a full circle. I live right now where I was raised at.
Right.
It probably, I would venture to say, it's been 65 years ago that I was raised right here. I was born over in Wayne, but I was moved over here. Dad and them moved us over here. I was 5, 6, or 7, 8 years old. Well, we lived right along 12-Pole Creek Road then, and it was an old dirt road down through here where we lived at. And we either, when we went over in town, went to school, sometimes we rode a boat across the creek here to make it a shortcut. And we'd walk to school. In wintertime, we'd cross the creek on the ice and go to school. Well, earlier on in my years, I walked, Dad trusted us, you know, he trusted me, go to the store. But this particular time, it was in the summertime. I went for one thing or another, I can't remember what it was, late in the evening, to walk over into Wayne, and I had some more relatives that lived over by the store, Asbury's Grocery, right in the location that I was born. And for some reason or other, late in that evening, me and I think my other brother that's next to me, he was either over there, and I went over by myself, and I stopped at my sister's. They was one that lived right where I was born at. And it was pretty close to getting dark. And they, I think I sort of fibbed to them. They asked me if I was by myself, and it was dark. And I think I told them, yeah, I'm not sure, but I think I told them I was by myself. Well, in the meantime, they told me they wanted me to go over to Asbury Groceries and pick up something for them at the store. Well, while I was gone, I went to the grocery store. I'll get back to my brother here in a minute. I came back over to my sister's place there that they was living at. And whatever it was I brought back to them, I gave it to them, and I didn't see their husbands there. I said, I missed them, and I think I asked them, they come up with some kind of an excuse or an answer for me. And Anyway, I let it go at that, and I didn't know where that they'd gone to. And as I left, it was dark then. It was after dark by the time I got started. And my other brother, he was over at a neighbor's house, and that's where he was at. And I was supposed to guide him and walk back home. So we would come up and cross the old train bridge out here at Spunky and walk down Asbury Road. About halfway from the train bridge to where we lived, there was a place that they called Milk Gap Holler. And that's what very few people knows it by today. Well, me and my brother came through there walking, and we got right at the Milk Gap Road there, Holler. There was sort of a swag in the road right by 12 Creek. And we got right there, and on the mouth of the Milk Gap Holler, there was a big, I don't remember if it was a big beech tree or a big wild cherry tree. It was a very large tree. And it was, like I said, it was well after dark. Well, we heard something or another up in the mouth of that holler. And of course, I was about 3 or 4 years younger than my brother. And so got to looking and trying to figure out what that was. And here comes something out behind that big tree, white. Arms up in the
Oh my God.
up in the air.
This is for true.
And like I said, I was young, and I started out as a little banker going up out of that swag at the Milk Gap Holler coming on here towards the house. And I was very scared. I mean, but anyway, I think that come on head out behind that tree real, in the open. I mean, it was dark still. I couldn't, you couldn't tell. I didn't know what it was. I'd heard different things about the Milk Gap. Years ago, they said it got its name. There was a barn in there before we ever moved in here that they said that they milked the cattle, which, I never saw no barn. It was, if there was a barn there, it was gone. But they milked the cattle there. I didn't know what had transpired in there in the past, but I knew it was a spook.
A legend.
It was a ghost, a legend or something other that I didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, I started running off away from my brother. I mean, I wasn't gonna piddle around. I was going to the house, and I was hollering him, "Come on, come on!" And it didn't bother him. He was starting to laugh and looking back. And well, we came all the way to the house, where now I live at.
Yeah.
Like I said, 60-some years later. And but anyway, get back to the story. I don't know how long that it went. I was back over to my sister and them's house. And some reason or another, I don't remember if I saw a sheet that was dirty in their house someplace.
Oh yeah.
And I found out after all that was my 2 brother-in-laws that was the spooks in the mouth of the Milk Gap Holler.
Did he know it? Do he know it? That's why he wasn't afraid?
Didn't know it at the time.
Oh, okay.
I don't think he did, but it wouldn't have mattered whether he had known him or not.
He wasn't afraid.
He wasn't afraid of him, but I wasn't going to.
You wasn't taking no chances, huh?
I was going to the house where I belonged. And so I lived at that location on Asbury Road now, which is called, it was just called 12 Road at that time, back in my childhood days. Now this road is blacktop, the Milk Gap Holler is still there, and that big tree is gone. And I walk out through there most every day.
You ever see any white things coming
I've
from?
never seen that. Hope that I never do. But we lived here until me and my high school sweetheart. She wasn't my sweetheart in the school, but we went to high school together. And after I graduated, just a few months after that, me and my wife, now that we was married right here.
Yeah, right here, huh?
We moved away. We lived here after we got married just a few years, and we moved to Newcomb Creek. We lived up on Newcomb Creek, up on Route 37 above Wayne for 40 years. Since that, we moved back down here about 5 years ago on the same piece of property by where me and her got married at. And
The old house down there.
The old house is still sitting, but no one lives in it. We live though on the same piece of property. It was all in one piece at that time. Our dad divided between me and that one brother.
Yeah.
And but that's why I said we made a full circle.
Yeah.
You know, my wife, which is Ida, asked us when we lived on Newcomb, would you like to live back down on Asbury Road? I said no. So it went for a few months again. She said, would you like to move back down, you know, on Asbury Road? I said no. Well, it wasn't just a few days. She found out this place had sold. And she found out who owned half of it, which we live on at this present time, that we moved away from. Now it's about 45 years ago.
Yeah.
We're back where I was on the same road that I saw that spook at.
Yeah.
And that spook ain't there no more.
And that spook ain't there more. Did you think when you saw that spook that it might have been something coming for you for that line?
I had no idea.
Did that lie come back to you when you seen that thing where you lied? Did it come back to you? Do you remember?
You remember?
I do now. I mean, yeah, I'm sure it did, but I
remember you telling me that
He's
one.
probably thinking it's getting me for my lies.
But the Lord has been so good to me.
Yeah.
But I'm back here, and people's come and asked me, do you miss Newcomb Creek? Living up there, I lived up on Newcomb longer than I lived here at the old home place. We lived up there 40 years. We've only been back here 5. And they said, do you miss Newcomb? I said, no, and I don't. I mean, yeah, God blessed us real well. Up on Newcomb Creek with 3 great kids. But I made the full circle once again. I'm back home.
Circle of life.
Circle of life.
Me and my wife just celebrated our 53rd wedding anniversary that we was married right here on this same piece of property we live on, just a few yards from where we at right now.
Yeah.
And we lived here for just a few years and then moved to Newcomb, and we're back. We made a full circle.
You had
back
hard.
home.
You had hard times. Did you have hard times in them 53 years?
Oh yeah. Hard times.
Yeah. But, you know, I'm like my wife, you know, I was raised up very simple, very little, but I had a very, very good, happy childhood. God blessed me. My dad raised me in a Christian home, and, you know, our older siblings moved off, and it was me and my 2 younger sisters moved away, and Dad raised us after our mother passed away. I was about 14, and you know, my granddad lived on a piece of property that I was born on. That's where he lived at, and he was a minister. My dad never drove. My grandpa drove, and he owned a car. We would go and go with my granddad. Me and my dad would. He would take us to church, and we went all over the place. My granddad and my dad and myself. He took us to church all different places. And
Now, wasn't there one time when you had got sick or stopped breathing? What was that? And your dad done? What happened?
well, in the very house that I was raised in right here, where we got married at, I was young. I don't remember it, but all my family told me about it. That I literally died, and my dad was a very devout
This is
Christian,
your mom's and dad's.
and my mother.
How
And
come you with it?
but they said that I had already stretched out, and I was already turned blue. Already had turned blue. They said I was dead. My older family did. And they said that my dad got over top of me and prayed so hard, so loud, that probably over across the creek here on the Railroad Avenue, which is now Canova Avenue and Railroad Avenue down through there, that you could have heard my dad praying that far away. And I'm here today,
Well, praise the
So-
Lord.
you know.
So he laid over you and prayed. Wasn't there a story in the Bible where somebody and he and you all related this story to what was it in the Bible? You remember? Do you know? Or
Where I can't, my mind.
was it Elijah or Elisha or?
Yeah, he got over and he breathed in it, you know,
Yeah.
and brought him back to life. Like I said, my memory, I don't remember the names and stuff, but that stays in my mind. And
Of how that saint of God breathed the breath of life or prayed over somebody and
Yeah.
brought them back to life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
God has brought me and my family through a lot of trials, and you know, as long as we're going to be in this walk of life, we're going to go through tribulations, trials, and tribulations, but you know, through them all, we can be overcomers. We can be victorious.
Right.
Even though we go through some real tough things, real tough times, we can still look back. If it's raining, if it's snowing, and God opens your eyes up, that's a beautiful day,
Yes.
regardless of what it's doing outside.
I remember what you see. Today's mine and Arbie's anniversary, and when Arbie and I first got married, well, I just hit it right off with his parents, and especially his dad, just because he's a likable guy. But I remember Arbie. I'm high strung, and Big Arbie's laid back, and so I think that's why I take to him, because if you get two people in a room that's high strung, it's like two cats fighting. So you got good balance when you're high strung, and then you take somebody that's laid back like Arbie is. It's quiet and it kind of balances my spirit. It kind of balances me being around him, and it helps me to be at rest. But I remember him telling me something when Arbie got married, and I'll never forget it. But he said, anything worth having is what, Arbie?
It's worth fighting for.
It's worth fighting for.
If it's not worth fighting for, you don't need it.
If it's not worth fighting for, you don't need it. So the times that Arbie and I, the hard times that I've went through, those words always stick out in my mind. It's like the Spirit brings that back to my mind. And
My wife was 17 years old. We started to date. I just had graduated. I was 19. And I drove from here at Wayne all the way up on Kais Creek and to date her, to go and, court, in other words.
Mm-hmm.
Used to call it court. I don't know if it's still do or not. But anyway, I just felt that she was the one for me.
yeah,
And we dated very short time.
About
Just
4 months, I think.
wow.
just a few months. And one night, it was late, I think they'd all laid down. I was still at their home on Cars Creek, which the real name is Kais Creek. And me and her dad were still up. And I thought,
Nice too.
this is my time.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that I'd already asked Heidi if she would marry me, but I had to ask her daddy for her hand. And he said, he gave me, you know, a short lecture, I guess you might say. I don't know what it was, but I do
He just
remember
remembers
this.
one part.
I remember this very well, and he was so true. He said, "She has got a bad temper." And I knew where she got it from. It came down.
The apple
her
didn't fall
bloodline.
far from
Yeah.
the tree.
It came down right through her bloodline, and that didn't keep me away from me from stealing.
Yeah, you like that challenge? Do you like that challenge?
If it wasn't worth having, it wasn't worth fighting for. So we have fought with it. We've not fought like
Right.
this.
Yeah.
We've had our tough times, and we just celebrated, like I said, our 53rd birthday, and
Anniversary.
and I just celebrated my 73rd birthday.
Well,
this
praise the
month,
Lord.
December the 5th.
Yeah, we were happy to have you. You left the day before your birthday, and we didn't get to celebrate it. But
Yeah.
well, I guess we better get home. I'd like to see my husband on our anniversary.
Yeah, on your own.
Now, I'm not going to say that me and him ain't duked it out a time or two. We just won't go there and say that. But let's just say this. You take two high-strung people and you put them in it's like putting two cats in a box. That's all I'm going to say. But I'm just going to say happy anniversary to Arbie. And through it all, I've learned to trust in Jesus and I've learned to trust in God.
Amen.
And I wouldn't have found him if we hadn't reached for the stars. So, honey, when you watch this after a while, I hope that sticks in your mind about putting two cats in a box. But I love you, and I'll see you here in about 6 hours.
Just don't tie your tail together.
No, we ain't tying no tails together.